My name is Chloe Jensen. I'm 35 years old, and my job is to see ghosts. Not the kind that rattle chains or haunt old houses, but the kind that live in the silent, humming arteries of a global financial network. They are phantoms of pure data, spectral shapes of future attacks that haven't happened yet. I'm a cybersecurity analyst, a white hat hacker. My company, Innovate Financial, pays me to be paranoid. The problem is, my boss, Mark, thinks I'm far too good at my job. But wait, before we dive into this story of ignored warnings and ultimate justification, I need your help to keep this channel going. For us to continue bringing you stories like this every single day, your engagement is the only payment we ask for. It costs you nothing, just a single second, but for us, it makes all the difference. So stop everything right now and smash that like button hard. If you aren't part of our Legion of Stories yet, subscribe and hit the bell so you don't miss a thing. And so I know how far our stories are reaching. Comment down below what city and state you're watching from. I want to get to know every single one of you. Done? Awesome. Now get ready. My paranoia isn't theoretical. It was forged in the wreckage of my family's life. When I was 16, my father owned a small, thriving manufacturing business. He was a mechanical genius who could build anything from a custom gear to a full assembly line. He believed in tangible things: steel, oil, the satisfying clunk of a well-made machine. The digital world to him was just a tool, like a telephone. He thought cybersecurity was an abstract problem for giant banks and governments. Then came the ransomware attack. It arrived in a single, innocuous-looking email with an invoice attachment. A single click from his trusted bookkeeper and it was over. His entire life's work, 2 decades of designs, client lists, accounting, and supplier contracts was encrypted, held hostage by an anonymous digital ghost demanding a ransom he could never pay. I remember sitting next to him in his dark office, watching him stare blankly at a screen filled with a skull and a countdown timer. He didn't just lose his business, he lost his spirit. The shame and stress of that failure hollowed him out over the next few years, a slow-motion collapse I was powerless to stop. That day, I found my calling. I would learn the language of these ghosts. I would learn how to fight them. I would never let that happen to anyone else if I could help it. I brought that fire with me to Innovate Financial, a tech behemoth that handles billions in daily transactions. Our security is a fortress, a digital castle with towering firewalls and moats of military-grade encryption. My job as a penetration tester was to walk the castle walls every day and look for loose stones. A month ago, I found one. It wasn't just a loose stone. It was a fundamental flaw in the castle's design, a secret door hidden in plain sight. It began late one Tuesday night, fueled by cold coffee and a gut feeling that something wasn't right. I was running a deep system audit when I stumbled upon it. A deprecated authentication protocol in a secondary payment processing system. It was a dusty digital side door everyone assumed had been sealed and bricked up years ago. But it wasn't. Pulling on that single thread, I spent the next 3 weeks unraveling a terrifying tapestry of vulnerabilities. I mapped a complex, multi-layered exploit path that could, under the right circumstances, allow an attacker to use that forgotten door to create a ghost user with escalating privileges, eventually gaining root access to our core transaction servers. It was elegant, terrifying, and to me, a certainty waiting to happen. I poured everything into a report I codenamed Project Cassandra, after the Trojan priestess cursed by the gods to tell the truth but never be believed. I felt a grim kinship with her. The report was my masterpiece. It wasn't just a warning, it was a blueprint of a future disaster. It detailed step by step how an attacker would move through our network like a phantom, the specific servers they would target, the commands they would use. It was a 50-page prophecy of a digital apocalypse. I presented it to Mark in his pristine, glass-walled office that overlooked the city. He listened with a patient,
patronizing smile, a man entertaining the quaint theories of a child. He even invited Todd, his junior sycophantic manager, to listen in.
"Chloe, this is incredibly thorough," Mark said when I finished, tapping a sleek silver pen on his glass desk. Todd nodded eagerly beside him, mirroring his boss's expression. "Impressive, really. But it's all theoretical. The number of things I would have to go wrong for this Rube Goldberg scenario to play out is infinitesimal." "The vulnerability isn't theoretical, Mark," I insisted, keeping my voice steady, my hands clasped tightly in my lap. "The pathway is real. It's an unlocked door at the back of the building. It's not a matter of if someone finds it, but when." Mark chuckled and looked at Todd. "So what you're saying, Chloe, is that our entire multi-million-dollar fortress security infrastructure, which I personally oversaw the budget for, can be brought down by a ghost? Do you hear how that sounds? We can't grind our entire Q3 product launch to a halt every time you find a specter in the system. We need to be agile, forward-thinking. This report is fear-mongering. It doesn't align with our positive, solution-oriented culture." "It's not fear-mongering to point out a fire hazard, Mark. It's my job." His smile tightened into a line of annoyance. He hated being challenged, especially in front of his protégé. "Your job is to be part of a team, not to create panic with doomsday scenarios. We'll take it under advisement." I knew what under advisement meant. It meant he would bury it. That night, I did something he would never forgive. I sent an executive summary of the report to his superior and the head of risk management, with the subject line, "Urgent, time-sensitive vulnerability analysis." He saw it as a direct act of insubordination. He summoned me to his office this morning. The fake smile was gone. His eyes were cold chips of ice. "Your persistence is no longer being a team player, Chloe. It's a distraction. It undermines my authority and creates a toxic culture of fear based on your anxieties. As of today, your position at Innovate Financial has been terminated." I felt the air rush from my lungs, but I stood tall, my face a mask of professional calm. "I understand." "Good," he said, a flicker of triumph in his eyes. He slid a single piece of paper and a pen across his desk. "Before you go, I need you to sign this. It's a formal retraction of the Cassandra report for our internal audit. It states, and I quote, 'The findings were inconclusive and based on flawed, speculative methodology, and that the threat level was grossly overstated.' It's your last chance to demonstrate you can be a team player for the sake of your future references." It was a threat wrapped in corporate jargon. He wasn't just firing me, he was forcing me to gaslight myself, to call my own expertise a lie, to salt the earth of my career on my way out. "Sign it, Chloe," he ordered, "and then you can go clean out your desk. HR is waiting." I walked back to my cubicle in a daze. The office, usually a symphony of clicking keyboards and quiet conversation, sounded muffled and distant. My colleagues, even the ones I'd shared lunch with, suddenly found their shoes fascinating as I passed. I was an outcast. I sat down, the retraction letter feeling like a lead weight in my hand. I looked at the small photo of my father and I, taken years before he got sick. I felt a wave of shame. With a heavy heart, I opened a new document and began to type the words that would betray everything I stood for. I, Chloe Jensen, formally retract the findings. It was around 11 a.m. when the office itself began to feel wrong. The lights flickered. The usually reliable Wi-Fi became sluggish. The payment system on the high-tech coffee machine in the break room went down, sparking complaints on Slack. Small, annoying glitches, but I knew these weren't glitches. They were symptoms, the tremors before the earthquake. I looked at my personal diagnostic screen. Anomalous read-write requests in Sector Gamma 7. It was the first step, my first step. From the Cassandra report, the ghost was in the machine. I deleted the retraction letter. Instead, I opened another folder on my desktop, one Mark had never seen. It was labeled Project Cassandra, Containment Protocol. Then the main alarms shrieked to life, a piercing digital wail that shattered the Monday morning calm. The next hour was a symphony of professionally managed chaos. I watched from my desk as people ran past my cubicle, shouting into phones. The war room, a glass conference room with wall-to-wall screens, became the epicenter of panic. The screens, usually a soothing green, were now a terrifying cascade of angry red alerts. I could hear Mark's voice, high and frantic. "Shut down the external servers, now! Isolate the network!" He was barricading the front door while the enemy was already in the master bedroom, stealing the jewels. I ignored the commotion. I put on my noise-canceling headphones, filling my ears with the calming, intricate patterns of a Bach cello suite. I filled my screen with my containment protocol and went to work. The hackers were a torrent of water flooding the system. Mark and his team were trying to build a dam miles downstream from the breach. I wasn't building a dam. I was diverting the river. My fingers danced across the keyboard. I wasn't just typing commands. I was conducting a silent orchestra. I opened ancient, forgotten sluice gates in the code, rerouting their attack into isolated, empty data lakes, honeypots I had designed years ago where they could do no harm. In the war room, the senior security engineer, David, stared at his screen in disbelief. "I don't understand," he yelled over the din. "They're moving through the system like ghosts. Our firewalls are useless. But something's fighting back. Their advance is being blocked from inside the network. It's like someone is anticipating their every move, closing doors just before they get to them." Mr. Harrison, the stern, silver-haired owner of the company, had arrived and was observing the chaos with quiet, simmering fury. "Who?" he demanded, his voice cutting through the panic. "Who is fighting back?" David's fingers flew across his keyboard, tracing the source of the defensive commands. The commands. They're being executed from a single internal terminal in the main office block, Terminal 7B, Chloe Jensen's terminal. All eyes in the room turned to Mark, whose face had gone a ghostly white. "Where is she?" Mr. Harrison's voice was dangerously low. I let her go this morning, sir." "You what?" Just then, the security chief pointed a trembling finger at the main screen. "Sir, look. It's her report. The Cassandra report. The attack, it's following her prediction, to the letter. Every single step. And this," he clicked another file, "the retraction letter Mark had forced me to write. And this," he said, his voice barely a whisper, "is what he was making her do today." The war room fell into a dead silence, broken only by the sound of my fingers typing away at my desk 100 feet away. Mr. Harrison walked out of the war room, his face like carved stone. He found me at my desk, a picture of calm in a sea of chaos. He stood there for a moment, watching my screen as I executed the final commands of the containment protocol. The last of the hostile processes flickered and died. The system was secure. I took off my headphones, the final notes of the cello suite fading, and finally looked up at him. "It's done," I said. He didn't say thank you. He just looked at the copy of the Cassandra report in his hand, then back at me. "You tried to warn us." "It's my job. I see the ghosts." The next morning, I was in his penthouse office. Mark was there too, standing in the corner by a potted plant, looking small and broken. "Mark," he said, without looking at him, "you are relieved of your duties as head of innovation. You can clean out your office after this meeting." He then turned to me. "Chloe, I've read your full report and the retraction letter. It seems I've been paying the wrong people to be paranoid." He paused. "I don't need a team of people who tell me what I want to hear. I need one person who tells me the truth, especially when it's hard. The position of Chief Technology Officer is yours effective immediately." A vindication so pure and so total washed over me, and for the first time in a long time, I felt the knot of anxiety in my stomach finally unwind. "Thank you, sir. I accept." "Good," he said.
Your first task is to implement every recommendation from your report across the entire company. Of course, I'll need an assistant to help me manage the project, someone to collate reports, handle scheduling, and give me a full accounting of how these warnings were ignored. I turned my gaze to Mark, who flinched. I believe Mark just became available.
My first act as CTO was to walk down to my old department. Mark was sullenly packing his expensive belongings into a cardboard box. I walked past him and placed a thick, printed stack of my old, ignored security reports on the desk of his new, much smaller cubicle. "Mark," I said, my voice even and professional, "I'll need a detailed summary of all of these, highlighting the potential financial impact of each ignored vulnerability, complete with a root cause analysis of the management failure that led to them being dismissed. Have it on my desk by morning. It's for our internal audit." He just looked at me, his face a mask of utter defeat. For the first time, he finally understood. I hadn't just been seeing ghosts, I had been seeing the future, and now I was in charge of it. 6 months later, I stood looking out the window of my new office, Mark's old office. The view was the same, but the world felt different. I was different. The first few months as CTO had been a whirlwind of rebuilding, not just systems, but trust. The Cassandra report became a legendary document within the company, a symbol of a culture shift I was leading, a culture where truth was valued over comfort. Power, I learned, was a strange and heavy coat. It was warm, but it could also be isolating. I found myself looking at the eager faces of young engineers in my meetings and actively searching for the one who looked skeptical, the one with an uncomfortable question. I never wanted to become Mark. I never wanted to be so insulated by my own authority that I couldn't hear a warning bell ringing right next to me. Mark was gone. He lasted 2 weeks as my assistant before quitting, unable to handle the humiliation. I heard he took a lesser job at a smaller company, his reputation in the valley tarnished. I felt a brief, fleeting flicker of satisfaction, but it was quickly replaced by something else. The satisfaction wasn't in his fall, but in my own rise. His fate was irrelevant to me. My victory wasn't about him. It was about the validation of my work, my principles. My real project, the one that brought me true peace, was the foundation I established in my father's name. The Jensen Foundation for Digital Literacy provides free cybersecurity consulting and services to small businesses, the very kind that are most vulnerable, just like his was. I was using the resources of a corporate giant to protect the little guys. I was honoring his memory by fighting the same kinds of ghosts that had haunted him. That, I realized, was the final lesson. The pain of my past, the frustration of being ignored, the humiliation of being fired, it wasn't just a series of unfortunate events. It was a crucible. It had forged me. It had given me the paranoia to be a great analyst and the resilience to survive the corporate politics. The wound had become my armor. I turned from the window, my mind already on the next challenge, the next ghost to hunt. The future was a vast, complex network of possibilities, and for the first time, I felt truly ready to navigate it, not as a Cassandra fated to be ignored, but as an architect ready to build something stronger. The story is over, but our conversation is just getting started. Now it's your turn to talk. I want to know 2 things in the comments, and I want honest answers. First, what would you have done in Chloe's shoes? When her boss demanded she sign the retraction, would you have refused? Or would you have done it and then saved the company anyway? Second, what did you think of this story? Was the "I told you so" moment as satisfying as you hoped? Leave your full opinion. If you made it this far, it's because this story moved you. So if you haven't already, show your strength.
Hit the like button so more people see this incredible turn of events. Subscribe so you don't miss the next ones, and share this with someone who needs to see justice served. Your engagement is our fuel. See you in the next story.